not scoring goals, of not scoring goals enough. That's the problem. It's the key area. You have to score more goals. As a team, I think we have players across the team who have the abilities to score. But that's clear. You see all the opportunities we are creating. We're not scoring enough.
Now, Rob and I have seen quite a bit of Manchester United this season. They've got a huge game at the weekend against Tottenham. United haven't started well. I think only Ipswich, Crystal Palace and Southampton have scored fewer goals in the Premier League than United this season. Now, I wrote a piece at the start of the week about United's lack of firepower, how their toothless forwards are the reason why they're struggling. But it's beyond that, isn't it, Rob? I think we know that over the years United have looked at top strikers and not been able to get them in. And I think we're seeing the situation now whereby their lack of foresight and their lack of being able to find a world-class striker has left them in the situation they're in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, scoring goals has been a problem for United ever since Ten Hag came in particular. I mean, it kind of went under the radar a little bit last season because last season was such a disaster and they couldn't defend either. So, people kind of forgot that they weren't scoring goals, but it's been a problem. Regularly scoring goals has been a problem ever since Ten Hag came in. It's been highlighted again recently and rightly because if you look at the metrics in everything that you would measure a game, they're all improved on last season. They're winning the ball back higher up, they're defending better, they're conceding fewer goals, but really none of it matters unless you're scoring goals. And when you're not scoring a lot of goals, particularly multiple goals in games, it puts a lot of pressure on the defence. And you saw that in that FC20 game. You score a relatively good goal, but because you don't get that second and third, every time that 20 go forward, there's a chance that they're going to score, and you end up drawing the game 1-1, a game that you probably should have won 3 or 4-1. That there is an issue with the way that Ten Hag coaches, obviously, because if it's we're looking at an almost 2.5 year sample now, so that can't be an accident. What he would tell you is that the players are missing more big chances than any other Premier League team, and he would tell you that means that everything is right about his build-up, but he hasn't got the players to put the ball in the net. And then that comes back to what you just mentioned there about recruitment. Your two main centre forwards are Rasmus Højlund, who's very, very young. He's got no record of consistent scoring. And Joshua Zirkzee, who in his first interview as a Man United player said that he's not a goal scorer. It's a problem that is going to affect United all season if they don't get it right. And really what you're relying on is Rasmus Højlund becoming this 20, 30 goal a season striker, or Marcus Rashford rediscovering that form that he had 2 years ago and being able to score 30 goals in all competitions. Because if that doesn't happen, you're still looking at a Man United side, improved as they are, but still not being able to score goals, still not being able to win games, and finishing 6th, 7th and 8th again.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, United's Premier League era has been, dominated or defined by their strikers. You go back to the 90s, Eric Cantona, you go through, the treble-winning team, Andy Cole, Dwight York, Teddy Sheringham, Solskjaer, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Wayne Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo, Berbatov. I think the last one they signed that was actually at the peak of his powers was Robin van Persie, and he won the league, but that was now 2012, 2013. So I look back at who United have signed since Sir Alex Ferguson left, and I think apart from Romelu Lukaku, who at the time when he arrived, he was a centre forward in demand at the peak of his powers. Beyond that, they've really kind of done patch-up signings. You're talking people like Cristiano Ronaldo again, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Edinson Cavani, some terrible kind of loan signings like, Weghorst and Odion Ighalo. They may have done a job, but United shouldn't have been in a situation where they look at those players. Now, we do know that they tried to get Erling Haaland, I think in 2019-20, but missed out to Borussia Dortmund. They looked at Harry Kane for a period of about 7-8 years, and James will be fully aware of this, that they never felt that they could get a deal done with either Harry Kane or with Tottenham. But, in the last 2 years alone, when they've brought in Højlund and Zirkzee, they've looked at Victor Osimhen, decided he wasn't for them. They looked at Ivan Toney, decided he wasn't for them. And I was told, and I know you know this as well, Rob, that even looked at Ollie Watkins 18 months ago and decided that rather than sign Ollie Watkins, they'd go for Rasmus Højlund. So some really bad decisions there. But I think, James, you cover Arsenal regularly, and they don't really have a centre forward either, but they somehow are able to put the ball in the back of the net, whereas United can't. So what are they doing right that United are doing wrong?
Well, there's certainly, there's a lot more cohesion about Arsenal than there is about United, and you'd have to say that their goal threats come from much more varied areas. They're a better coached team front to back, aren't they, at the moment, Arsenal than Manchester United. But I think it's quite interesting, actually, that you mentioned a lot of strikers there, but, there were a lot of clubs this summer that were looking for a centre-forward, and Arsenal were very keen on Benjamin Sesko at Red Bull Leipzig. Obviously, he ended up signing a new contract. And I remember speaking to somebody at Arsenal after he'd signed that deal, and they really put the brakes on their summer plans. They just thought, well, all right, he was kind of the target. We're now not going to get him. There's not a compelling case to go and sign another specific centre forward. They obviously looked at some of the same names. They looked at Ivan Toney. Spurs looked at Ivan Toney. I asked Postecoglou about that the other week, and he admitted that he was one of the names on their list. They ended up paying 65 million for Dominic Solanke, and you'd have to say that's a punch, really, at that price. Yes, he's had a good season at Bournemouth, but he's taken 4 or 5 years really to get to that level, and we don't know what he can do in Europe. We don't know, really what he can do at the elite level in the big games. But Spurs ultimately took the plunge. They paid the release clause and thought, well, we want to get another centre forward in, despite the fact they already had Richarlison. And they thought, well, we see him as an upgrade. That was a punt that they took. It was one that Arsenal decided not to take, and it's one that United have decided to either not invest at that level for a player like that, or they've just chosen to go elsewhere with it. I mean, I think it's interesting to listen to you guys talk about United and the chances they create. It's funny because Sunday's game kind of pitches two teams that feel the same way about that. It's a familiar refrain for Postecoglou, and it was in the first sort of 2 or 3 games of this season that he felt that they were creating chances. They were not winning games. They obviously lost at Newcastle, created a lot there. They didn't beat Leicester. They created a lot there. And I think it's one of those where Solanke picked up an injury on his debut at Leicester. He's been out for a couple of weeks. He's managed to get himself back and scoring. And that maybe is a real sort of pivot point for Sunday, is that, they went and got their striker. They paid over the odds. Can he take it to the next level? United have ended up paying a bit less for Xerxes, who, by his own admission, is not kind of an out-and-out goal-scoring centre-forward. And, you live or die by your recruitment decisions. And I guess Sunday we'll find out early on in the season anyway which one looks like being right.